Wednesday. Elisa and I are here with you again to talk about topics related to workplace wellness and how you can really learn to thrive. And today's topic is psychological safety. And I've seen from the some of the comments from when you posted it, Elisa, that people feel this is an important topic. So introduce us to psychological safety. What does that mean for you?
Yes, so psychological safety means feeling comfortable to voice your opinions, to voice your questions, to be allowed to make mistakes and not be reprimanded or punished because of it. When there is psychological safety in the workplace, you feel safe, you feel okay to talk about ideas, to share ideas, to not fear that you would be humiliated or that there would be consequences. So creating this type of environment, it is really important. I think it's key in order to bring some other things to our workplace. It is important for us to feel comfortable, to feel safe, to feel we belong, and that we can express ourselves freely. So I think it's basic to have this, and it's something that comes from all areas, meaning all from the leadership, from management, even from us employees. Um,
Yeah.
yes.
And it's something that you would perhaps assume or take for granted that it's a natural, but it is not. It can be a very big problem, and so many people uh, don't feel they're accepted and valued for being who they are, or they have to, it's almost like put on some armor or something, put on something before you go in. I had a job like that where I had a boss who was something of a bully, and so I remember having to prepare myself before I went in during the day, and I didn't know anything then about energy and the things I know now, but I remember having to kind of steel myself when I went in there to be able to deal with him without getting upset. And you just shouldn't have to do that. And it's quite remarkable. I just had a quick look before we came on. There's a lot of bullying, for example, that goes on in the workplace, whether that comes from a boss or whether that comes from a coworker. And I just had a quick look. There's a Facebook group about workplace bullying, and it has over 14,000 members. So it shows you that it is something that it's not doesn't just happen at school. It happens with adults in the workplace as well, and it can be extremely traumatic and take a psychological toll on you when you experience something like that.
Yes, it's very unfortunate. Doesn't start only in school, but it continues. It can continue in the workplace, and these are patterns that we learn early on. And one of the things that we get a lot of information too, being that my son goes to school to detect bullying. And it's interesting because I was listening to a radio show the other day, and not to talk about something differently, but I'll talk about it very briefly. And they were saying, some parents, that they prefer their kids to be homeschooled because they wanted to avoid environment, and that and unfortunately, let me tell you the truth and the reality. It doesn't work like that. It may be even worse. So I think it is very important. And now I'm glad there is more awareness. Like you said, during your time, even in my time, early in my career, there was no term for psychological safety. that wasn't even addressed or discussed. Now there is a little bit more awareness. We talk more about all of this, but there is still some stigma, there is still some resistance and fear of talking because
Mm.
of the consequences. I remember in one of my jobs, I face bullying and even some sort of uh, different treatment. And unfortunately, when I spoke, it wasn't well received. And yes, it happens. So
Yeah. I can remember being in meetings, for example, and there were those people who had a lot to say and were very attached to their ideas. And if I had something to contribute, perhaps you know that didn't 100% go along with their idea, or was maybe pointing out something that they hadn't considered, it was sometimes it was just such an effort to be heard, because I might start talking about it and then be shouted down or talked down. And sometimes it just took so much effort that in the end I decided, well, I know that what I have to say could save you a lot of trouble down the road, but you don't want to hear it. So, it's okay. And it was just too much effort to try and really get the point across. And so I very rarely felt that I could be myself in a job. And with most of my clients that I work with, because they are highly sensitive, highly empathic, very sort of caring, heart-centered, more sensitive people, very often they've had very traumatic experiences at work, just not only not being accepted for who they are, but being actively targeted sometimes for being who they are. And sometimes it can be from a boss, sometimes it can be from a coworker. But if you have nowhere you feel you can go, nobody you feel you can talk to, nobody who's going to listen to you, it can feel very hopeless until you get to the point where the only option you feel you have is to leave, which is very sad because it could
yes,
be a job you love, or they're losing a valuable employee.
yes, it's very sad, and this sense also that you don't fit in because your ideas are not welcome or understood
Mm.
based on your type personality type. Because I know in a way that corporate values and rewards people that are a personality, that are spoken, that
Mm.
are more extroverts, but there is so many other benefits
Mm.
in these other type of personalities, and it is important that we learn to appreciate and to bring together all colors or true colors of our personalities and
Mm.
self. And so, and I think there are different positions in a company. Not everybody is suited to, let's say, have a sales role or have an accounting job. And that's why, again, we have different jobs. But most importantly, I think respect. We need to learn to respect each other and 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 to treat ourselves with that in mind.
Yeah, I would say if you are a supervisor or manager or a leader, make sure that you make time, or that there is a way for quieter people to be heard. Or if somebody is unhappy and comes to talk to you about it, don't dismiss it. Don't just tell them they shouldn't feel that way, or just to get over it. If that's people need to be heard, or feel they can be heard. And that's from the manager's point of view. But I would say, if this is happening to you and you don't feel safe in your workplace, the number one thing I think you need is to be able to talk to somebody. Now, that somebody may not be in your workplace, and it may not be a family member, because they might not be able to understand what you're experiencing and be able to offer the right, um, not only suggestions, but just not be able to listen without trying to fix your problem. There'll be, very often people say, oh, well, you need to do this and you shouldn't feel that way. And, so you really need to have someone who can listen and listen to what you're feeling, what you're experiencing, and really validate that and know that it's not just something you're making up. It's real and it's true for you. That can be so incredibly helpful. This is why I think the value of a coach, for example, somebody like you, like me, somebody who can really listen and then share practical ways that you can deal with this, because there are practical ways. And I've seen situations completely turn around, not by trying to force another person to be different, but just by working with yourself and how you feel and about what's happening and how you interpret what's happening. And because then you change your response to what's happening, and that can change the situation. So if you're feeling that it's hopeless, it isn't. You just have to have the right person to talk to.
Yeah, somebody impartial, somebody that can objectively see the situation based on what you bring, but also see other aspects that you're not seeing. Because when we are in that type of situation, most likely we are in an alert mode. We
Mm,
are triggered and we don't respond same with the other person that may be involved in the problem. So
mm,
yes, reaching out to a coach, an expert. Even a lot of companies have EAP programs, the employee assistant program, and you have access to several sessions that you can consult a counselor, a psychologist.
mm. I
You
would
take
say,
advantage.
yeah, if you have something like that, take advantage of it. And I know, people might hesitate, thinking that it's weakness and you need to figure it out yourself, or you might buy into what other people say, which is, well, just get over it, just get on with your job and ignore those people, or you shouldn't feel the way you feel. Never invalidate what you're feeling. If you feel it, you feel it. If you're experiencing it, that's your experience, and you need to be able to talk to somebody who understands. And I think, sometimes within companies they have diversity and inclusion programs, and sometimes I'm assuming, I don't know enough about them really, but I'm assuming that maybe sometimes the people who run those programs, maybe those are people that you could talk to, or maybe they're just running programs to help everybody see how they can get along together. Do you know more about those programs, Alyssa?
Yeah, it could be those programs. You have to find out who you can trust.
Mm.
You can go to sources. Sometimes there is a person responsible for employee um, conflicts, employee relations issues.
Mm.
There is also sometimes company, and most of big companies have a work ethics hotline
Oh.
from any employees or anybody in the company. It's actually something that is outsourced, and they will receive, somebody in the company will receive the communication on what was reported, and then based on that an investigation will be opened. But so that you can investigate, again, not everybody, especially smaller companies that are more like mom and pop companies, and I understand the dynamics there may be more difficult or different. So I think it's important that you don't get discouraged. It could be very difficult sometimes, but you have options, and it is important that you reach out because your health is at risk if you don't pay attention.
Mm.
statistics are also very high in regards to burned out. Eventually, this type of things will lead to burned out, will lead to serious consequences. So we need to voice our our feelings, our truth, whatever is happening, and not just deal with it and just think that it will just stop by itself. We wish, but
Yeah. Well, and it is important to find the right person. And if you go to your boss or somebody within your organization and they don't have the capacity to really understand, I remember gave a presentation to a group of HR professionals one time talking about high sensitivity and what it means and the kinds of things that as highly sensitive people we can experience that create a sense of overwhelm. And I remember there was one guy in the group who was in HR who said he said I have an employee, he said, who's been coming to me complaining about noise. Apparently they had these noise machines. The company had implemented some specific noise machines or something like that. And he said that she came to him complaining because it was driving her crazy. And he said, I thought she was just complaining for the sake of complaining, just to be difficult. And he said, now I understand that's not it at all. It was affecting something physically for her. So just having that, some understanding is really really helpful. And if the person you're talking to doesn't understand, you do need to find someone who does, because just taking that example of highly sensitive people, a non highly sensitive person has no frame of reference for what can overload and overwhelm a highly sensitive person. So very often they might think, well, you're just overreacting, you're just being difficult, when it's something that is physically affecting you. So yeah, having someone you can talk to is so important. And if you don't have that person within your company, then you need to find someone, definitely.
some support. And
Yeah.
again, it's a gray area too, because this is not a disability that can
No.
be documented as something that, okay, this is what we're going to do, and this is the options that we are able to offer you. No. But again, having that sensibility and listening with openness, it's important. And
Yeah.
not always believe that this is, like you were saying, this person is being difficult, it's just like
Mm.
making things so hard.
Mm.
No, not all the time.
No. And people just want to be heard and valued and appreciated. And
Yes.
that's a basic need. Everybody needs that, and it's not an unreasonable.
Yes,
Um,
and I understand sometimes managers don't have the time
right.
and it can be difficult because of the workload and everything going on.
Mm.
And it is, they have a lot in their
Mm.
plate
Yeah.
and they may not feel ready or even available to have those conversations.
Mm.
And it is understandable. They're
Yes.
also human beings, like
Yes.
everybody. But again, practicing and leading with vulnerability, I think it is also very important at all levels.
Yes. Definitely. Well, we're out of time again. And if you have an experience like we've been talking about, do share it with us. Reach out to us individually if you like, and share your situation. Be happy to hear from you. So for next week, what are we talking about? I have it. Oh, yes, we're talking about goal setting. Goal setting, since we're coming up to the end of the year. Oh, my goodness. Where's the year gone? So we're coming up to the end of the year. We're talking about goal setting. Have you reached your goals? Has there been resistance to reaching your goals? Have you been procrastinating? We'll be talking about those kinds of things because Elisa has a program coming up um, all about that. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So that's our topic for next week. And thanks again, Alyssa, for sharing your thoughts and your wisdom.
Yes, it will be a checking point mostly,
Yes,
and
yes.
it will be an opportunity for you to reflect on what the year done, what are those things that still there in the surface that are maybe bringing some worry or nervousness. Let's see how we can address that. We'll talk about it, giving you some strategies there.
Yes, most definitely. Excellent. All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching, and we will be back next week with more. All right. Talk to you then. Bye bye.